Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is my pleasure once again to be here again with another dynamic speaker for us to listen to today. So I'm so excited to have her on the podcast. I can't wait to talk to her about her topic today. So please stay tuned and listen to this podcast as well as listen to all of the podcasts from all of the pages that we have posted on this platform. We have tons and tons of information for almost every industry that's out there. And any information you find could be there for you to help you make informed decisions. Just in case you did not know, the purpose of the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast is to not only network our small businesses, but we're also using this information to encourage our working professionals and our career seekers to enter their line of work. So please make sure you take lots of notes. We also want to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, our family authors, Butler Armstead Consulting Solutions, Human Resource Learning Center, JNF Enterprises, and Women Offering Wealth, along with many of our business partners and sponsors who's helping to make this season a success. So we're going to get right to it. We have another dynamic speaker who has been all over Facebook helping everybody with their business on different lines. And so today we're going to talk about one of the most basic things we must have, and that is a business plan. And so I want to focus that conversation on that today and introduce to the podcast Lakeisha Womack. Lakeisha Womack is the owner and lead consultant at Womack Consulting Group, which is a firm that specializes in working with small business owners and individuals to help them achieve their professional goals. She's a graduate of Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee in '99, and she received her Bachelor's of Arts degree in Political Science. She is also a certified event planner through QC Event Planning and a 2016 graduate of the Women Campaign School at Yale University. She resides currently in Charlotte, North Carolina with her son, Christian. The Womack Group offers business development, brand management, community planning, graphic design, and a slew of other services that you just have to get with her and contact her about that because she just has so many different things going on. For more than 10 years, she has worked with clients in a variety of industries, including transportation, technology, publishing, and many others. So with that, I want to also let you know that she is the author of 7 books, which one of them has become a literary award finalist for the 2017 book cover of the year, and she's going to talk about more of that. So welcome, Lakeisha, to the podcast.
Wow, thank you so much for having me, and I'm so excited to share with the listeners about business planning.
Awesome. So let's just start about with just you. Tell us about you, where you're originally from. How did you get into this line of work?
Okay, well, I'm originally from a small town in southern Alabama. Decided that I wanted more out of life than just what I saw around me. So I applied to attend the first public boarding school in Alabama that had a focus on math and science. And my mom was like, no, I don't want you to go. But I knew that if I was going to do something different than what other people in my small town were doing, then I was going to have to get out and kind of expand my horizons. So I graduated from the Alabama School of Math and Science, went on to Vanderbilt in Nashville, where I knew absolutely no one. My family was like, how are you moving to a city? We don't know anybody there. But I really just wanted to spread my wings and chart my own path. And while there, I got my undergraduate degree, worked in retail management, worked as a financial advisor, and decided that I wanted to control my own destiny. So I had a friend who was doing an internship as a part of his MBA program at a tobacco company. And I said, well, what are you going to do there? And he said, oh, I'm consulting with them. And, being from a small town, not knowing about jobs other than what your parents considered jobs, being a teacher, being a lawyer, being a doctor. I said, well, what do consultants do? And he said, well, we go in and we look at businesses and we tell them how they can operate more efficiently. And I started thinking, who's doing that for small business owners, especially for minority business owners? So often we get caught up doing the thing that we do, and we do it the best way that we can, but we don't have a lot of people who can come and say, hey, this is how you can operate more efficiently. This is how you can create a plan to go from being a mom and pop to actually franchising your business, or this is how you can go from being a home-based business to actually opening up an office. So from there, I started helping clients one at a time, and slowly my roster grew, my skill set grew, and I started adding more and more services. And now, Womack Consulting Group has been in existence for probably about 12 years now, and we've worked with clients all over the world. I have clients in Australia and other places that I'm able to work with thanks to technology. So we're just blessed to be a blessing to so many businesses.
Okay, fantastic. That is really great. And I love the fact that you have branched out globally because we need more of that type of service. Okay, so I'm going to go back in time because you have a lot of degrees in there, and then you have
Right.
transition over into this world of consulting. And so just speaking from a career standpoint, what made you go into the degree program? Was it something that you liked in high school or somewhere along the way? I just want to give the listeners a chance to understand your reasoning for being in that particular field and then seeing how that ties into what you're doing now in consulting.
Okay. Well, just to be totally transparent, when I went to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I always wanted to work in fashion, but as I said before, my family didn't consider that a good job. So, they encouraged me to go to a good university. And while there, I tried out pretty much every major that Vanderbilt had to offer. And the political science classes really stuck with me because I have a passion for helping people and understanding how our society operates and why, different policies and systems are in place that often disenfranchise us. And so I got involved with political science. After I graduated, I managed my first campaign, and the guy actually didn't win the first time he ran, but after some time, he took the advice that I had given him while working on his campaign, and now he is an elected official. And so that fueled my passion, just to be active from a social and economic justice standpoint. And then I decided to pursue what I wanted to do, which was the fashion career. But as my family warned me, there's not a lot of career potential in, retail management. So I did go for the good job and worked as a financial advisor. And while doing that, I realized, well, my goal as a financial advisor was to find individuals with $250,000 or more to invest with me. And they said, go to your natural market, the people that you know. And again, looking around our community, I saw that there were not a lot of people who have that kind of investable assets. And so that prompted me to write 3 of the 7 books. It's called My Money Matters, and they're a financial literacy workbook series for kids, teens, and parents so that a family can sit down and manage their finances together. So pretty much everything that I do and all of the business ventures have been fueled from seeing a need in the community and wanting to be the person that can help people to overcome whatever the obstacles are. And God has just blessed me tremendously with the skills to be able to operate in so many different spaces.
Okay. And so when you did the finance, what was it that drove you? And I know you talked about that a little bit about the consulting, but
hmm
when you were introduced into the consulting world, was it a automatic aha moment and said, you know what, this is really what I want to do? Or did you have to go in, check it out for a little while, and then you just kind of grew into it?
Well, I actually did it on the side while I was working in retail management and as a financial advisor. I would just help, people here and there. And it wasn't until I got pregnant with my son and I started thinking about the kind of mother that I wanted to be. And I wanted to, be at home with him, but I also knew that I needed to make money in order to take care of us. And so consulting, which, I already kind of had going in the background, just like everybody knows, my side hustle. And I started, thinking, how can I take this seriously and make it into a full-time job? So once I had him, then I started putting together my business plan to make consulting a full-time position for myself so that I could be a work-at-home mom. So typically I'm working during the hours he's in school, and then when he gets home, I'm able to devote time for him as if I were a stay-at-home mom.
Okay, fantastic. And see, that is really important. What you said critically was that you worked on your business plan because, like many of our small businesses, and mine included, we are having side hustles. A lot of us.
Right,
And on the podcast, we have side hustles, grind, the hookup, the side thing,
right,
all these, really, seriously, all these terminologies that we use because we're so passionate about it that we're willing to literally work two jobs to make
right,
it happen. But now we're to the point where we get to understand how effectively a business plan is. I know a lot of us try to write a business plan when we're trying to get our side hustle to the full hustle, okay?
right.
But sometimes we don't really make it. And so, one of the things I want to focus on in this podcast is, when do you really write the business plan? Some people tell me you write it after you're in business. Some people tell me you have to have it before. And I think it's a combination of the two. But for
Right.
your professional experience and how you consult the businesses that you work with, let's just break down first about the importance of a business plan and then kind of go into when we actually are supposed to write a business plan.
Okay. Well, first, I'll say why I think a business plan is important, and the reason is most of the time the thing that becomes our side hustle or our grind is the thing that we're most passionate about. And what I've seen with a lot of entrepreneurs is that they're so passionate about it that they'll almost work for free. And so having a business plan allows you to sit down first and identify what is the product or service that you're planning to offer, how much are you going to charge for it, how much does it cost for you to run the business, and then for you to start setting goals for yourself. So instead of it being, oh, I'll just take whatever projects come my way, if you know that you want it to be your full-time business, then you know that you need to make, maybe $4,000 a month. And if you're only charging, $500 per client, then you need 8 clients that month. And a lot of times, businesses may bring in $2,000 a month, and they're like, yeah, I'm doing it. But if you need 4,000, then you're right there at the cusp of being able to become a full-time business owner. But because you didn't sit down and create a plan, you're still hustling and working it as a side business when you could just be ramping it up, having a marketing plan, which is a part of your business plan, to say, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z to market the business, I can get those other 4 customers and I can leave the 9 to 5. But so often people never take the step to create the business plan that helps them map out, what do I need to do to make this full time? And then how do I sustain it over the long term? The longer you're in business, the more expensive it becomes because we start investing in tools to automate some processes, and you have these monthly fees coming out of your account. And so you need to be able to account for those things. And, if that means each month you have to add one additional client or sell, 15 extra gift baskets, when you know that in advance, if you're really hustling for your business, you're more likely to make that happen. But if you're just shooting in the dark and you don't have a plan, then you can be right there on the verge of your breakthrough and not even know it.
Okay. And so, one of the burning questions before we get to the part about breaking it down is, once you have your business plan, many businesses may not even understand how they even use the business plan. And so I want you to think about how we're going to talk about that as we break
Okay.
down the importance of a business plan, because I want to do like a full 360 view scope of a business plan, how it's really broken down, and not maybe getting all into the weeds of it, but maybe hit on the most critical and most important parts of a business plan and why it's important.
Okay. Well, I will say that, I tell clients that there are basically 2 uses for a business plan, and for them to decide what that use is going to be before they start working on it. And one is it an internal document? Are you writing a business plan because you need a roadmap for how you're going to operate? Or 2, are you writing a business plan because you're trying to get funding? And so you're going to use it to submit to banks or investors. And even though it's essentially the same document, if you're going to be submitting it to investors, then you do need to go into much greater detail, and your financials need to be a lot tighter. So in that instance, you might need to bring in an accountant to help you go over your numbers and just to make sure that everything adds up and your industry ratios are correct, so that you have a better chance of getting the financing that you're seeking. But if you're just using it as an internal document, then the most important part is going to be your cash flow statement. At what point could my business run out of money? and when do I need to increase sales so that I can, stay in the black every month.
Okay, and so what are the other areas? Because you only mentioned like the two for the cash flow, but is that
Hmm.
like the top two things that they need to make sure they have? And I'm pretty sure it is, but are there any other areas? Because when I'm thinking about writing a business plan, I'm looking at the executive summary, I'm looking at
Hmm.
their products and services, and I know that for me, one of them is making sure that I have a sound concept before I even
Right,
start a business plan. And some people, like you, just to tie into what you said about being internal, I think for me, I have to make sure that what I think of as internal in terms of my working has to also translate to people who are reading it.
right.
And based on your experience, what has been some of the good and the bad with that?
Well, I would say going back to the first part of the question, the main sections of your business plan should first deal with your operations. That goes back into your concept. What's the mission of the organization? What's your vision? Are you legally established as a business? You may decide to become a sole proprietor or a corporation. Whatever you decide, have you taken the formal steps to make that happen? And then you start looking at, what are the processes that the business needs to adhere to. So that gets into your sales. How do you make a sale? I tell my clients a lot of times that you're writing this so that if you decide to hire somebody, you can use your business plan as a training tool, because you can say, this is what the business stands for. This is how we operate. This is what our marketing plan is. So if someone is brand new to your company, they should be able to look through the business plan and say, okay, this is where I fit in. And obviously, you're going to have the human resource piece. So many businesses fail to look at, what type of staffing needs am I going to have in the future? How much do I need to put into reserve so that I can hire with confidence? And that means bringing someone on and knowing that you're going to have the cash flow to be able to pay for that person's salary, because at that point you're responsible for another person's livelihood, and that's nothing to play around with. And then to start getting into the marketing portions, a lot of times we look at Facebook and Twitter and we're like, oh yeah, that's free advertising. And free advertising only goes so far, but what else are you going to do to make a name for yourself in your local community as well as in your social media network? And then thinking about, does your business have the capacity to have a global presence? And if so, what does that look like? How do you tap into those markets? So, really thinking about from the concept perspective, what do I want my business to look like 5, 10 years from now? And I always say, begin with the end in mind. However you see yourself 10 years from now, start thinking about the things that you need to do in all of those areas so that you can achieve that goal.
Okay. Do you think it's a good idea for business owners to just test the waters as they're writing their
Yes.
business plan? Because I
Yes,
know
I just
I
have
have done
to.
it.
Yes,
I have
I
done it for sure, and I had to rebrand myself at least a couple times and go back to my business plan and say, okay, that did not work. Okay, so
right, right. Yes, I can't tell you how many people have had like this great idea. And my question is always like, are you doing this for you, or is there a demand in the market for it? And so a lot of times we want people to operate the way we want them to operate, instead of looking at how do they naturally operate in the market. How much are they willing to pay for whatever service you're offering? And I'm like you, like I've had to rebrand my business several times. So I think people think that once they write their business plan, then that's kind of it, like it's set in stone. But you almost have to go back like every year and look at, what's working, what's not working. And that's why I have so many different lines of service for my business, because some months, I have like 5 people who need political consulting. And some months, like nobody wants to talk political strategy at all. Everybody wants a website design. But when you think about the umbrella of your business and, 4 to 5 different revenue streams that you can offer that fit under that umbrella and make sense, you got to have a plan for each of them. And you have to be able to test it out and see, do people even want that? And most importantly, do you want to do that? Because I can't tell you how many more people have thought they wanted to do something and then they got out and they started doing it and they're like, I don't like doing this anymore. And so even if it's like, starting, like I had
Hmm.
one client who wanted to start a nail salon. And so I was like, well, have you ever worked in a nail salon? And she was like, no. And I said, well, maybe you should go work in one and just kind of see what the day-to-day operations are like. And after she did, the business idea kind of fizzled. And it's, if you're going to put your finances and your time, which is the most limited resource that we have, into something, then you want to make sure that it's something that you want to do. Because as a business owner, there are going to be so many days that you're going to question your sanity. You're going to question why you decided to do this. And you want to make sure that you're doing something that when you start having those questions, that you can say with confidence, I'm going to stick this out.
And that is so true. And I'm gonna tell you, my husband actually had a dream of starting his own business as a fleet manager and running his own trash truck. I know he's looking at me like, okay, why are you talking about me?
Right,
Okay,
you talking
so
about
but
business.
it but I have to share the story because it happens a lot. Okay, so for years and years and years, he wanted to do this thing. Well, he actually got the opportunity to become a district fleet manager for a really large known organization that do waste refuge. And when he got in there and he saw the day to day and the responsibilities and the cost, oh my goodness, the
Mhm.
cost, the
Right,
overhead, the staff, everything, it was really insurmountable. It was to
right,
him, it was like, oh my goodness, this is really
right.
what I'm gonna get into. After that, his whole entire demeanor changed and said, you know what, I think I want to do something else now. I think I
Right,
just want to
right,
go to work and come home. And
right,
sometimes just doing a business plan, which leads to that question I was going to have you talk about at the beginning, is when do we actually put it in place? Because a lot of us, right, like you said, we go out there and we try to market our business plan after we think we have it in place, when really we need to continuously test it until we have a
right,
proven concept. I'm still refining my business plan over and over again as I'm testing new things and adding on new things and taking away new things. But for me, I'm thinking I need to be careful of when I do it because I believe in first impressions. And
right.
so I feel that if you go too soon or if you go too late, do you miss the opportunity or are you losing the first impression? So in your opinion, when is the best time to market your plan?
Right, right. And I think, that's one of the questions that I always ask, in the market when we get into the marketing phase is, who is your primary customer? Who's your secondary customer? And I use the example of cell phones. So, cell phones are used by pretty much everybody. But when you're doing an ad for a cell phone, the way that you market your cell phone to a teenager is going to be different than the way you market it to a business professional. So even though a lot of times we think, well, everybody wants what I have to offer, you got to figure out, who are those two main categories of people that are likely to buy your services. Like I say in my 60-second pitch, I work with small business owners and individuals. Like, so when I'm talking to people, I know that I'm either looking for an individual that wants branding or some web design or a political consultant, or I'm looking for a small business owner that needs business development or not-for-profit organization. So, when you think about the people, the types of people that you want to work with and the services, then you start having conversations with those people. I tell people, develop a focus group or an advisory team where, you find some members of those target markets that you're looking to penetrate and get them to tell you, like, what's your pain point? Like, how would my service help you to do whatever it is that you're trying to do better, and how much are you willing to pay me to do that? And sometimes, like, people will find that, they think that their service is worth, say $100 an hour, and people are not like, no, I'm only willing to pay you $25 an hour for that. And you have to listen to the market and not say, well, they don't know what they're talking about, I'm still going to go out trying to charge $100, because if people aren't willing to pay that, then your service is not going to be utilized, and it's going to make it really hard for you. So I tell people, one, put the service out there and, talk to people who are in your target market and ask them, is this service, something that you would be willing to buy? Is it going to meet your needs, and how much would you be willing to pay for it?
Okay, so this leads to another question. Girl, you're good. You got me thinking. Okay, you're good.
That's good.
Okay, so
That's
here's
good.
another question. This is going to test you. Okay,
Okay.
so where do you find these people? I mean, a lot of times it's very hard to market. I'm gonna tell you, in the last 2 years, people, I would not say people, but institution has been really protective of the folks that are there. Particularly for me in my market, I have college, high school students, unemployed people, people who need mentoring and all that kind of stuff. And it is so hard to market to people who you cannot reach, and
Right.
you may or may not have the resources to do mail marketing through the mail service or put your ad in a paper or something of that nature. So, for a very small business or a micro business, what is the best way for them to find their target?
Networking. I tell people all the time, it's good. People do business with their friends. So it's good to get out and go become a part of professional organizations where the people that you're trying to reach are. So at one point, I was going to SHRM meetings, the Society of Human Resource Management, because I was working with an organization and we were trying to get into small businesses to do human resource training. So even though I wasn't a human resource officer, I was going where the human resource officers were and getting to know them so that when they needed someone to come in and do trainings, then they would think of me. I think a lot of times we try to passively aggressively reach people. So we're sending out, emails, we're sending out mailers, but people don't take those seriously if they can't put a face to it. So sometimes you have to develop a local network and just go and, offer to take someone out for coffee and just say, hey, I have this business idea. Would you be willing to join me for coffee and just talk through it with me and tell me what someone in your profession would be looking for if they were to hire someone like me? And it's amazing how many people out there are willing to help because most people have like a hustle or a grind. So they understand what you're trying to do. And if it's not going to cost them anything except, maybe, 30 minutes at a Starbucks, they're willing to do that. And when it comes to networking, I suggest to people, like, look for breakfast networking events. Like, whenever somebody's talking about networking over lunch, it's usually a turnoff because I know that the type of professionals that I'm trying to meet are not going to consistently come to lunch meetings because life happens and they get busy and sometimes they miss the meeting. I don't do a lot of dinner or evening networking if I'm really trying to make business connections because by the time my day is over and someone else's day is over, like, we don't want to talk about business. So it ends up being more of a social encounter. So if you invite someone to breakfast, like, yeah, you have to get up a little bit earlier, but their mind is sharper. They're more focused on business, and they're not going to keep you all day because they've got to get to the office and get to work. So, find some people in the industries that you're trying to penetrate, the types of people that would be your ideal customers, and offer to take them to coffee and pick their brains.
Okay, fantastic. And I really appreciate you sharing all of that information. So let's talk about your books. You have 7 books out there. I think you're the only one on this podcast that has that many, okay? So tell everybody about the books that you have, the names of the book, the purpose, and let's just go from there because that's a lot of books.
Right, right. Well, I
Uh-huh.
love to write, and when I started building my personal brand, I was building it as a blogger. So I think at one time I had like over 700 articles on my blog site, and so the first book was actually, just a fun book, and it's called "Is She the One?" And it's a relationship book that was written for men on, how do you figure out if the girl you're dating is a gold digger or drama queen or if she's the one. And it was because I had so many guy friends that were getting married. I guess I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and they're all getting married, and then they're coming back complaining because she's this and she's that. And so I started asking, what questions did you ask before you proposed to her, before you decided that you wanted to get married? And a lot of times, like, they just decided they wanted to be married, and she was there, and so that's who they ended up proposing to. So it goes to, how can a man really get to know a woman? The second book is called Success Secrets for the Young and Fabulous. And so it goes into just different topics for people who are in their 20s and 30s about, being successful and developing a network and, financial advice and parenting advice. So it's just a collection of essays. The third book is Building a Brand Without Spending a Bundle. Like I said, I was living in a small town in southern Alabama. I think there might have been there are 8,000 people in my entire county, and I had dial-up internet at the time. And I was able to build a national brand with dial-up internet in this really small town, and people thought, I was like somewhere in like New York or something building, this business, but I was sitting out in the country amongst the trees, consulting with people. So I talk about, the stages of building your brand and developing consistency among your platforms, color schemes, messaging, all that great stuff. So 4, 5, and 6 are the financial literacy workbooks that I mentioned. That was birthed out of, just seeing so many people in my community that may not be able to retire one day because they don't know how to budget. They're not saving for the future. They don't have a good handle on their finances. So we start with, how do you develop a budget? How do you develop goals for your money? Because if your money doesn't have a goal, then it's going to be hard to keep it in that savings account. And then we get into the saving and investing portion. And then the last book is called When All Hell Breaks Loose. And it's kind of my personal autobiography to I guess the age of 37, where I just talked about my faith and what role my faith has played in my life and just helping me to become the person that I am today. And book number 8 hopefully will be out by the end of
What?
the year.
Book
Um,
number 8, really?
yeah, it's almost done, and it's like my passion project, and the ones that like I really want to sit down and develop time to, but I just have to carve out the time. But it's called Unlent, and it's based on the Willie Lynch letters, and it's an economic empowerment doctrine for African Americans. And it takes a look at the methods that were used to contain us during slavery and how they've manifested in society today. And what are some things that we need to do as a community to unlynch ourselves and to become economically powerful again.
Wow. Woo. The last book should have been All Hell Breaks Loose, really.
Right, right,
Wow.
right,
Okay. Well, you know
right.
what? First of all, congratulations for just
Mm.
being an outstanding person and really seizing the opportunities that have been presented to you, and for the fact that you have the fortitude and the strength to write 8 books. Matter of fact, now that I
Right.
remember, I believe there's one other podcast. He's also a sponsor who has a tremendous amount of books also. And you are actually doing basically what he said, which was leverage your intellectual property knowledge, and you definitely have done that. And so I want to congratulate you on that. Now, last question for you, Lakeisha. This is a networking event. People are listening and participating. What do you need from them in order for Womack Consulting Group to thrive or to continue to thrive?
Definitely. Well, I would love for people to reach out to me. I offer complimentary consultations, and I truly, and I hope you guys can tell, just from how excited I get talking about these topics, but I truly have a passion for helping people. And so, if you're willing to accept advice, I'm not the kind of person that's going to put you into like this box plan where everybody goes from step 1 through 5 in 6 weeks. Like, we don't do that. Like, I really sit down and try to get to know people and understand, how do you operate, how do your customers operate, and how can we develop systems that you're going to be able to effectively and efficiently use to have a great business. So, if you're one of those people that wants to connect and you are ready to take your business to the next level, I would love to work with you. I love to talk to you and just see how we can work together. And I think that that's how my business remains successful, is finding people who are willing to, stretch themselves, because I'm going to push you, and I don't take limitations as, I guess, normalcy. I believe that just Johnson and Johnson started somewhere, and so we are the same way. Like, who says that your business can't be the next Johnson and Johnson? Who says that you can't be as great as AT&T? The only difference is how much are we willing to invest and reinvest into our businesses to get to a national or a global scale. So if you're one of those people that is just excited about what you're doing, you might have some questions and you need somebody that you can bounce ideas off of, and it's going to help you to develop a strategy. I don't believe in just doing things haphazardly, but let's sit down and talk about the strategy. It may look like it to other people that these things just happen, and that's how people look at my business. They think that things just happen, but they don't know all the hours I put into putting together the plan so that it looks so effortlessly and like it just popped up. And that's what your business should look like. It shouldn't look like you're, toiling and that you're struggling and, you're always burnt out, because who wants to do business with that kind of person? So let's figure out how to make business fun and how to make business successful and how to make it profitable.
Fantastic. And everybody who's listening, I just really want you to take in all of this information, not just from this podcast, but from all the podcasts, because I'm going to tell you, it takes years to locate
Yes.
and find people who is actually willing to sit down with you and give you what you need and be affordable. And it's also in your community. The internet is vast. There's so many people trying to do the same thing. But again, this is something that you can actually listen to, hear the passion in their voice. It's almost as if they're in the room with you, because I feel like she's in the room with me,
Right.
which on here it looks like she's from Alabama, and but the point is that we have to take advantage of these opportunities that are presented before us, and that's really what I got out of this podcast from her journey and so many others. So I'm going to encourage everybody again. I'm pretty sure you heard this about over 50 times now, because we have over 54 speakers on this platform, that you need to listen to all of the podcasts and read all the bios and contact people, because their contact information on this page, Lakeisha's contact information on this page. And so if you need a business plan, or you have questions about your business plan, or you're trying to market your business plan, or I think one of the things she did on Facebook was a speaker page. If you need a speaker
Right.
page done, or if you need help with your web development, there's something for everyone on this platform. So again, just make sure you take care of that and take advantage of this opportunity. And so with that, Lakeisha, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Well,
I'm
and
pretty
can I
sure
just
everybody, yeah.
before you wrap up, I want to thank you for having the vision to do this, because, like you
Oh,
said, there's so much information out there, but it all comes down to building a community, and we really need to get to know each other and know our strengths, and realize that I can't do everything. And sometimes, I'm looking for an accountant, I'm looking for an attorney, somebody that I can trust my clients with, and so we have to start to build those networks of professionals, because we do business with our friends. And so I thank you for being a friend and welcoming me into this community. And I'm
oh,
looking forward to helping you in any way that I can to help
oh.
your programs and your projects to grow.
Okay, y'all, you heard that too. She is
Yes.
not what she's going to help me and all of us in here. So let's
Yes.
have a round of applause for Lakeisha, because I'm gonna tell you, this is the kind of networking that we have to build. This is the kind of community that I and so many other people are envisioning. And so I want to invite you to build that community with me, and let's continue that. So thank you, Lakeisha, for being on the podcast today. I am definitely excited, and I will be contacting you for my business plan personally. So, hey, it's got to be done. It's got to be
Right,
done.
right.